Retro Road Test, Rover SD1 vs Peugeot 604. The 1970s and early 1980s were an interesting time for executive cars. Manufacturers aimed to provide comfort, performance, and prestige, with European brands at the forefront of innovation. Two models that stood out in this segment were the Rover SD1 and the Peugeot 604, both offering distinctive approaches to luxury motoring. The former boasted avant-garde styling and a powerful V8, while the latter focused on French sophistication and ride quality. But which was the better executive express? Let's find out. Styling and design. Both cars adopted distinctive design philosophies. The Rover SD1, introduced in 1976, showcased a striking fastback design inspired by the Ferrari Daytona. It was a radical departure from traditional British executive saloons, featuring clean lines, a sleek profile, and an aggressive stance. The long bonnet and raked rear window gave it a dynamic look, while the wide track hinted at its sporting pretensions. The Peugeot 604, launched a year earlier in 1975, took a more conventional approach. Designed by Pininfarina, the 604 exhibited elegant proportions, with a formal three-box silhouette, a long wheelbase, and restrained chrome detailing. Where the Rover looked aggressive, the Peugeot exuded understated class, an image more in line with traditional executive buyers. Inside, the Rover took a more driver-focused approach, with a wraparound dashboard and a futuristic-looking instrument cluster. The controls were logically laid out, although early build quality issues marred its otherwise impressive presentation. The Peugeot's cabin, on the other hand, was all about comfort. Its interior was spacious, well-appointed, and finished with high-quality materials. The ergonomics were less driver-focused, but the seats were supremely comfortable for long-distance cruising. Performance and driving dynamics. Engines and power. The Rover SD1 came with various engines over its production run, but the 3.5-litre V8 version was the most desirable. This aluminium block motor, borrowed from BIC, produced 155 bhp and could propel the car from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8.6 seconds. The SD1's power delivery was smooth and effortless, with the characteristic V8 burble adding to its appeal. The Peugeot 604, in contrast, was more restrained in terms of outright power. The most potent version available was the PRV 2.7-litre V6, a joint development between Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo. Producing 136 bhp, it was down on power compared to the Rover, but it still provided a refined and relaxed drive. The 0 to 60 miles per hour time was a more leisurely 10.2 seconds. But the engine was noted for its smoothness rather than outright performance. Ride and handling. On the road, the Rover SD1 was surprisingly engaging for a large executive car. Its rear-wheel drive layout, coupled with well-weighted steering and a firm suspension setup, made it enjoyable on twisty B-roads. The ride was slightly firmer than expected for an executive saloon, but it struck a good balance between comfort and agility. However, early models suffered from questionable reliability and build quality issues, which sometimes detracted from the driving experience. The Peugeot 604 took a different approach, prioritizing ride comfort above all else. It featured an exceptionally compliant suspension system, making it one of the most comfortable cars of its era. The soft suspension absorbed road imperfections effortless, and motorway cruising was a serene experience. The downside was a lack of engagement. While the 604 was stable and predictable, it lacked the Rover's dynamic prowess when pushed hard. Practicality and comfort. For an executive car, practicality is paramount. The Rover SD1, despite its fastback styling, was quite spacious. The hatchback boot design provided excellent versatility, making it a surprisingly practical choice for those needing to transport luggage or large items. The rear seats were comfortable, though headroom was slightly compromised due to the sloping roofline. The Peugeot 604, on the other hand, offered a more traditional saloon layout. While its boot was capacious, it lacked the accessibility of the Rover's hatch. However, rear seat passengers benefited from superior legroom and comfort, making it an excellent chauffeur-driven car. The plush ride and well-padded seats made long journeys effortless, and road noise was minimal. Reliability and ownership experience. One of the biggest criticisms of the Rover SD1 was its build quality. Early examples were plagued with reliability issues, from electrical gremlins to poor panel fit and finish. British Leyland's notorious reputation for inconsistent manufacturing standards meant that owners often faced unexpected repairs. Later models, especially after the Series 2 update, improved significantly, but the stigma remained. The Peugeot 604, while better built than the early SD1, was not without its flaws. Rust was a major issue, particularly on UK models exposed to salted winter roads. Mechanically, the 604 SPRV V6 was robust but required regular maintenance to keep it running smoothly. However, its simple mechanical layout made servicing straightforward compared to the more complex Rover. Running costs and fuel economy. Neither car was particularly frugal, but the Rover's 3.5-litre V8 was notably thirsty, averaging 18 to 22 miles per gallon in mixed driving conditions. The Peugeot 604's 2.7-litre V6 fared slightly better, achieving around 22 to 26 miles per gallon, thanks to its more relaxed nature and slightly lighter weight. Maintenance costs were another consideration. The SD1's Rover V8 was a known quantity in the UK, with plenty of specialist support available. Parts availability remained strong, and tuning potential was high for enthusiasts. The Peugeot, being a less common sight on British roads, suffered from more expensive and harder to find parts. However, its simpler design meant fewer unexpected breakdowns. Verdict: choosing between the Rover SD1 and the Peugeot 604 ultimately comes down to priorities. If you want style, performance, and an engaging drive, the Rover SD1 V8 is the clear winner. Its striking design, powerful engine, and rear-wheel drive handling make it the more exciting choice. However, be prepared for potential reliability woes if you opt for an early example. If comfort, refinement, and understated luxury are your focus, the Peugeot 604 is the better option. Its plush ride, smooth V6, and superior rear seat comfort make it a perfect long-distance cruiser, though it lacks the excitement of the Rover. In an ideal world, one would have both, the SD1 for weekend blasts and the 604 for effortless motorway journeys. However, if forced to choose, the Rover SD1, with its blend of practicality, performance, and iconic styling, just edges ahead, provided you find a well-sorted example.